Okay, so let's talk about it right now. We are the the world is in a very intense time. Um, it's called a time of dinim, a time of constriction. Now, that's happening on multiple levels. It's happening on one level in terms of the time of the year. This is the month. Today is the new month of Av. In Israel, we're already in the new month. America, you're getting there tonight. And this represents a period of time that is a very a powerful period of time. It is a time where, starting from a little bit less than 2 weeks ago, the walls of the temple, the walls of Jerusalem were breached in both destructions. Discussion about the first temple was in the 17th or not, but the walls of the temple of Jerusalem were breached, and after 3 weeks, took 3 weeks and then 3 days to destroy the temple, holy temple, which happens on the ninth day of the month of Av. So this is a period of time where there is great constriction in the world. The Jewish people, we have many things that we do to not to commemorate the destruction of the temple. That is not the Jewish concept of a holiday. There's no commemoration date. It's not what it is. It's we are in the time and we are fixing the same process. Okay? The ninth of Av, the day the temple was destroyed, the day that both temples were destroyed, is the same day the Holocaust started. Okay? For those who are history buffs, World War One started on the ninth of Av, and World War II is a continuation of that historically. Many tragedies happened on the ninth day of Av. The Spanish Inquisition, the expulsion from Spain, that is, happened on the ninth day of Av, in the times of the temple. That's the day the spies came back from searching the land of Israel, and the Jews didn't go in. And they got frightened, and they cried, and they cried. And God said, okay, this is the day of crying until you are ready to go into the land. I had a person that called me just now, a person from America who's making Aliyah tomorrow. He said, well, what do I do? What do I do? Should I come now? Should I come now? Because, they're saying this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and Iran is going to do this and do that. And we talked about it, and I explained to him, which he understood, which was that, God runs the show. God runs the world. And a person who wants to be in the land of Israel and do the mitzvah of coming to the land of Israel, then we do it. And as the Jews are doing it now, this year, and every year this time, we are fixing up the destruction of the temple. Because here's the point you got to understand, Stephen. This is the crucial point that everyone needs to understand. The only reason for destruction is for the building. The only reason why we have the negative is to bring out the positive. The only reason why there is a Yetzer Hara, a negative inclination, is to overcome it, to bring out the good. The only reason there's bad in the world is to overcome it, to bring out good. That's the whole system. We don't believe in anything else because there is God who is all good and goodness and creates the world out of his goodness. And therefore, all the negative things are only for the purpose of the good if you are on that side. If a person jumps in and wants to be on the side of evil negativity, so some people in the world can make that their lot. That's what we're going to talk about today. Because what happens in this time is there's an incredible feeling right now. The situation with Iran, okay, I set up my bomb shelter. I got it set up. I got the water and the some food in there. Because you got to make your preparations in the world, make your efforts. But the reality is that I believe there's a strong sentiment here amongst the Jews, and I believe we're going to see it is that God is going to do miracles. Now, has there been times where the decree has been negative? Yep, there has been. But God is still all good and looking for our good. And therefore, this time of year, in these 3 weeks when Jerusalem and both temples were destroyed on the same day of Tisha B'Av, which is starting the month of Av, which starts tonight, here in Israel and America in a few hours, wherever you are in the world this evening. So that is the beginning of this month. That was a month of sorrow. However, the third temple will be built in this month too. And that's what this famous saying was: the Mashiach is born when the temple is destroyed. It wasn't physically born, but it means that the whole purpose of the destruction was that the Jews should realize and call out and say, God, we want our temple back. And when that happens, God says, okay, you're no longer crying with the fear of going to the land, I'm going to bring you into the land. So this is happening right now. This is happening on a local time dimension, and it's happening on a world dimension, because we are closer to the times of Mashiach now than we've ever been. That's a fact. We're today closer than we were yesterday to Mashiach, right? Because what happens is the whole purpose of the world is to bring the world to its rectification, its completion. God wanted us to do that job. And so he didn't finish the job. He left it for us to finish. And we've took turns and twists. But the goal is, and it's guaranteed to get there, it's getting there. Now, you got to understand what's happening right now. Because especially for all of you on this call, and I hope people that are going to see this, like I said to you last week, the reality is that there's various ways that this redemption is going to happen. We don't know yet. It could happen by all the Jews repenting. And even the fear of the enemy sometimes turns the hearts of people to do tshuva, to return to God. There's another way that God says that there's a set time that this is going to happen. And what's happening right now in the world is there is a teaching that says that Mashiach might come when the world turns totally bad. And that one is definitely in the workings, So not to the exclusion of people getting their act together, because the people, the Jews here, are doing tshuva, and the Jews here, I feel there's a strong sense of, I don't know, you read the news, they're about to do this, they're about to do this, about to do that. Okay. But the Jewish people trust in God. And that's the famous story, the great King Chizkiah, when he was surrounded by the Assyrian army, he said, "Listen, God, I don't have the power. I don't have like my great grandfather King David. I don't have like the other righteous people before me, King Asa and Yehoshaphat. I trust in you." And he said he was going to go to sleep, and God take care of the problem. And in the morning, when he woke up, the entire Assyrian army was wiped out. Now, this is, by the way, if you know that story in the Bible, in the Book of Kings, archaeology has proven that story. I don't need their proofs, but just those who don't know, that there is something called, they found the stele of Sennacherib. Sennacherib, who was the Assyrian conqueror, they found his diary. Well, it's the stele of Sennacherib, his diary. Now, in the old days, the way that people used to go and write history was to show how great they were. They didn't talk about their losses. They talked about their conquering. So they found Sennacherib's archaeological findings of Sennacherib's diary, the Assyrian conqueror. And he's writing there from one page to page how I conquered this, I conquered that, and I raped and I pillaged and I destroyed. And then he writes, and then I trapped King Chizkiah like a bird in a cage. And then the next entry was, We went to so-and-so place outside of Israel. What do you mean? Every time you describe how you destroyed the city, why didn't he describe how he destroyed it? Because he didn't. Because it was an embarrassment to him. He got wiped out. So there is a sense here, God willing, that this time is another time of our redemption. And as we get closer, there was a period where different decrees happened, but we do see the signs that Jews are being brought back to the land of Israel, and that is a clear sign that this process is going forward and getting close. Of course, it's always going forward, but it's getting very, very, very close. So that's on one level. And on the cosmic level, I say on the monthly level, on the month of Av, right now it's happening. And by the way, I lived in Israel before I went to the States. I lived in Israel for 21 years. Generally, the Intifada started during this time. Generally, that's when there was the most terror attacks. There's a time of when there was, and the Jewish people are fixing it up, and we're fixing it up, and we mourn the temple, and as we mourn the temple and say what we've lost, God says, okay, now it's time to give it back to you. The Talmud says that the non-Jews should be mourning the temple too. I told you before, the non-Jews realize how good it was for them. They never would have destroyed it. They would put 24-hour guards to protect it. Because when the temple stood in time of Shlomo, there were no famines, there were no natural disasters. There was peace in the world. And that is what King Solomon wrote in his prayers, that every person from any nation in the world should come to Jerusalem to pray the temple. God should answer their prayers. So that's what's happening in the world. Now, what should we all do? What should we all do? Well, as I said to you before, the Jewish people here in the land of Israel are again, there's different people. I told you about the secular people. Some secular people don't understand what it is, but they're still Jewish and they're willing to make tremendous sacrifices for their nation. And whether they realize it or not, they're making sacrifices for their belief in the true Torah, which is amazing. Because some of these secular people, you don't see they're connected, but historically they were, right? Many, many stories throughout history. Even that story that Daniel Pearl, the American journalist, who when they wanted him to say he believes in Islam, he said, I'm a Jew, and they killed him. He was taken captive. It was a non-practicing Jew. But deep down, every Jew knows what he is, whether he realizes it or not. So the Jews who are aware right now, the Jews who are the observant Jews, are praying to Hashem using what was the gift that our forefather Isaac blessed Jacob with, a kol Yaakov, the voice of Jacob, that we call out to God and God answers us in our prayers. That's it. That's what we do. The secular Jews, and also many religious Jews, because many religious Jews in the armies, the truth is the best army soldiers are religious. By the way, you just know that, because they understand what they're doing, understand what they're here for. So many of them are, gathering and preparing for various war scenarios. Now, what happened here with the killing of these leaders in Hamas? The ones who were the masterminds behind the October 7th massacre, both in Lebanon and in Iran. So I want to analyze that with a second for what that means, because it's a very weird idea. It's not necessarily a Torah idea. I guess to certainly to punish the people who committed the massacre is fine. That's good. But there's a real war here, and what is it doing just to kill that one individual? The entire people are being trained. As Elon Musk noticed when he came to Israel, he said it, he's a smart fellow. He said, we really need to retrain these people. These kids at ages 5 and 6 are being trained to kill. That's their place. They're breeding a entire generation of terrorists. So what do you get? What do you gain by knocking off one guy? What do you do? And again, they didn't ask me, and I don't think they asked the rabbis what these what government is doing. But they're trying to be this, like I said before, this. I can't call it super moral because it's moral according to the bizarre standards that nobody should live by. If your enemy's attacking you, it's a war. You got to fight back. Go and pinpoint and endanger your own soldiers because you're going door to door to find the guy when they're all voted Hamas in and they all support them. Go ask the son of the head of Hamas. The guy's like, this is the way that they were all trained. He knows it. Are there a few innocent people? Yeah, I imagine there are. But that's God's calculation. If you're in war, you're in war. There were probably a few innocent Germans in the time of the Nazis also. But the Americans bombed because they had to bomb. They were fighting a war. So what do they gain out of this sort of show of like we're only going to pinpoint the guy? I don't know. I don't know if it's the right thing. I didn't advise them that. This is much serious, more serious issue. But one thing that I think is fascinating here, which is that, and this was the message they were trying to send, whether it's right or not, I don't know. They're trying to send the message that we know where you are, and I do believe, and we know where you are, and we know how to get you, and that's the message they were trying to send. They didn't want to provoke an all-out war. Okay, whatever, right, wrong. If the religious people were allowed to have the commandership in the Israeli army, then they have a very different view because they have a much stronger view that what we're doing here is not just a process of keeping a free country. It's a process of the bringing of redemption for the entire world. And you got to deal with evil people. Unfortunately, the terrorists who assume this evil approach, you got to deal with them properly. So they're sending this message, we're not going to hurt these people are innocent, we're going to pinpoint the guy. But I think is that the fascinating part here is that the world starts to say, wait a minute. And this is what my prayer, and Hashem, this is one of our prayers that we say, is that everyone knows, even with the crazy secular Jews that we see sometimes in the world, but everyone knows deep down, the Jews are the chosen people and the God's people. And the sages say, Talmud says, and the verses say in the prophets, whoever is the enemy of the Jewish people is the enemy of God. And so therefore, when people say, wait a minute, how do they know that? How are they doing that? What did they... I don't know if you've seen this, but this is an incredible thing. I don't know. I saw it reported in a few different places, and I heard it from my rabbi, so I know it's accurate, that there was a member of Hamas that was asked, like, how come you send these rockets that are so inaccurate? You send them and nobody and no one and you don't get the Jews. You don't kill the Jews, you don't get them. So the guy answered him, he said, you don't understand, no, they're accurate. It just every time we send it, somehow their God just moves it away. That's what the guy in Hamas said. So the reporter said to him, so I don't understand. So why do you keep doing it? And he said, because we hope their God's going to get angry at them and not protect them. Do you hear this level of insanity? I don't know if you're here, Lara. I know you asked me last week, and Dan relayed to me. You wanted me to talk about the Parsha 2 weeks ago, the Parsha of Bilam. I didn't get a chance, Parsha Balak. But I'm going to say it to you now because it's exactly what the story of the Parsha of Bilam was. Bilam was a prophet of the nations. And he was on a weird mission to curse the Jews. And what really bothered him was that God said, this is my chosen people. The truth is, before Abraham, anyone could have been the Jewish nation. There was no Jewish nation. Everyone could have been it. Now, there was 7 Noahide laws that were commanded to Adam, that were iterated to Noah and added the 7th one, which was not to eat live flesh from a live animal, because before that, Adam couldn't eat animals at all. Couldn't kill an animal and eat it. So there was the Noahide laws, and there were people who were choosing to be righteous, and they would choose those that were trying to be very righteous, those that small group that descended from Adam, Shem, his great-grandson, Shem, Eber. Then comes along Abraham, Avram, and then the world is just evil. The world is literally a mess, kind of like it is today. It really is. I mean, it's hard to imagine that when you're reading some of the stories that the Midrashim tell us what was going on during that time, of how these people acted, it literally is like a page out of the New York Times. It's unbelievable. I'll explain what I mean by that. But let me get back to Abraham. So Abraham now he chooses God. So God says, okay, from your descendants, since no one chose me, I put a 2,000 years since the creation of the world, 2,000-year time, but no one's chosen me. Only your children will be the chosen people because you chose me, God said. Now, anyone at that point could have still, when God gave a Torah, could have joined in. They didn't want to. As a matter of fact, the Midrash says that when God gave the Torah, the entire world was shaking. And the people already still had a tradition of a flood. They got nervous. Is this the world collapsing? And they says to Bilam, the prophet, because he was the prophet of the nations. Bilam was a guy that looked like a guru, the Maharishi. He was all dressed in white. He looked very holy. He wasn't such a good guy, but he looked like a good guy. He was trying to be, but deep down he wasn't. And so they said to Bilam, what's going on? And he said, don't worry. God's giving the Torah to his people. And they said, good for them. I mean, good for them. Should have said, I want this too. Yeah, as long as it doesn't affect my program tonight. I'm watching reruns of Friends, and I don't know about this Torah business. Let them, those Jews do what they want to do. So they knew what was going on, and they didn't want. Now God says, okay, whoever wants to keep the 7 Noachide laws, that be righteous, because the 7 Noachide laws are to make you righteous. The Jews have an obligation called Chasidus. Chasidus means to be able to be pious, to be holy. And that's a hard obligation. Not everyone has to do that. Everyone has to be righteous, though. That's the 7 Noachide laws, the laws of morality, laws to be righteous. Person wants to convert, they can. Person doesn't want to convert, they want to keep the 7 Noachide laws, they can. They will have a portion of the world to come amongst Chasidei Umas Olam, amongst the righteous of the nations of the world. But it's a very, very fair system. But Bilam was bothered. What? Because now God already gave the Torah, and now the system was different. I got to connect to the Jew, that dirty Jew. I hate him. And that's what came out. And ladies and gentlemen, these same people are doing the same thing. Bilam blew himself up and destroyed his whole world because God said, this is my plan. You want to assist the Jews? You want to be part of it? Be part of it. You could convert. You don't want to be part of it. Be righteous and be part of the plan. But no, I want to be against it. And that's what that Hamas guy said. He said, listen, their God keeps blowing our missiles away. So instead of, hey, do you hear what you're saying, Bilam? Do you hear what you're saying, Mr. Hamas? That God is protecting them because that God said, this is my chosen people. So get on board with the program. It's very fair. Don't get into this, your haughtiness. No, how could it be? It's not haughtiness, nothing. It's not, I always tell you, it's not an accident that the person that was given the Torah, Moses, his trait that he's called is not the smartest, not the fastest, not the this, not his trait is called the most humble. That's not an accident. Because if you want to get from God, the more you have a big ego, the more you're there, the less you can receive. So it's not a question of what it is and who gets what. God is good and God is fair and everything he's creating is perfect. So become part of the program. But no, these people dig their heels in and they see what's happening. So last time, the Iranians sent these 300, 500 missiles, and thank God nothing happened. Now, there was a hidden miracle. Unfortunately, and the Americans took some credit. We sent okay, yeah, right. I know. We all make our effort, but you know what? The effort you make is what God says the way the world needs to run to make your effort. But a person with eyesight can see, and a person without eyesight can't see. A person with eyesight says, "Well, how come it always works this way? Well, why is this happening? How does this make sense?" I told you the story of the guy, the Jewish cadet in West Point, and he said to his professor, "Why do you never teach about the wars in Israel? Is this anti-Semitic or something?" He said, "No." He said, "Because they don't make sense. You never should have won any of those wars. We can't teach it. It doesn't make any sense." Okay? So get the point. Get on board. Let's all go. Let's all go build a temple. Yeah, very good. Iran, you can have a place. Hey, everyone can have a place. Let's go. But you're fighting God. You're fighting God's people. You're fighting against Hashem. I mean, how do you not see it? How do you have a religion where you see the what you call the old book says that this is God's people? And the multitude of verses says, "I will never." Hashem will never. It says in the verse, God will never ever desert His people. So how do you make a religion say He deserted His people? It doesn't make sense. If you read the first book, you can't put a new book. That's a contradiction. All right, you get what you think, but that's what's going on. So right now, what is there to do? What is there to do? Well, the Jewish people, as we had last week, they asked a very good question, and I try to explain a little bit concept of the internal system, which is with the Jews' obligation, and the external system, which is the nations of the world. Everyone has a role to play. And you got to understand this. It's like, and it's very important. Like people have said to me, like somebody asked Lara, she sent me a message about someone who asked her, and people try to say the seven Noachide laws make it like Judaism light. It's not. It's how to be righteous. A person who's not Jewish can actually do something that I can't do. You know what you could do? You could eat a bacon sandwich and go do something good and use that energy in a good way. I can't do that. It's like, yeah, once I eat, if I eat bacon, it's finished. Yeah, I can't do anything good with that. But everyone, you got to roll. Everyone's got to grab their role. So the Jewish people have to do their mission, and they are doing the mission. They are repenting, and during this time of Av, of this month, we are going and we are moving things to. I'm sorry, I just disappeared. We are moving things to go and to internalize in ourselves how much we are ready to return. We're ready to come back to the land of Israel. We're ready to build a temple. We have our complete trust in Hashem, doing the mitzvahs. We have some Jews that are confused. We've talked about them. Don't fall for the fact that Kamala Harris's husband is supposedly Jewish. What kind of Jew is that? If he's Jewish, I didn't check his lineage, but he's a very, very, very confused Jew. A very confused Jew. But that was the amazing part about Bilam, by the way. Bilam came to curse the Jews. Listen to this thing, though. The sages say he was only able to see the lowest Jews. And those he ended up blessing. He saw, wow, they're amazing. He saw the low Jews, like people like Einstein, a lowly Jew, a confused Jew, Jonas Salk, who created the polio vaccine, a confused Jew. He saw the lowest of the Jews and he had to bless them. Say, Rabbi, you crazy? These guys did amazing things. Yeah, they did amazing things, but they were confused. So the Jews are doing their part. What do the nations of the world need to do right now? And here you got to understand something. And sometimes I'm upset by, I really, I was born in America and I have a lot of good feelings towards America. America, really has been a nation that was very unique, the best secular nation ever. It wasn't the best nation ever during Solomon, but the best of all the secular was America. Freedom, what they brought to the world, the idea that you are free to live a meaningful life, to pursue the right to live in a way that's meaningful to you. Really, right now, unfortunately, though, there really is a battle for not just America, but it's what America represented. And when America started as a democracy and what it was supposed to mean, and that spread out to other nations who also have sort of adopted certain beliefs of liberty and freedom, that you're not controlled by your government. Because what happened for thousands of years? If you lived in a country, generally you had a despot king who kept the people poor and was cruel. People weren't free to live a meaningful life. America brought that consciousness, and the world took that. And now, unfortunately, America is selling out their dreams. It's like, well, yeah, it was never so great. It wasn't perfect, but for the secular worlds, it was the best you had. Improve on it. Don't destroy it. But you got to realize right now, what's happening is, as I told you, one of the ways before Mashiach comes is the world gets completely messed up. Now, there are certain things that are like what we call lines in the sand. There's certain things that God says, this is what the world is not worthy to continue with. And I want to explain what that is, because there are various sins that were so problematic that they became the place the world could not continue. So what are those sins? And this is going to be a very maybe shocking. I've discussed this before, but you got to understand what this means. A human being could do a bad thing. A human being could do bad things. Individuals in a society could do bad things, and that is an individual issue. When most of the society is bad, that's a problem. That's a big problem. But when a society goes and institutes laws and systems that destroy the civilization themselves, that's the line in the sand. So that's why when the generation of the flood, they were very licentious. But that wasn't what sealed the deal when they were destroyed. What sealed the deal was a few other things. One teaching was when they started to write marriage contracts between men and animals and men and other men. I'll explain that to you in a second. Meaning that, as you know, I mean, nobody sugarcoat this. This is clear. In the Torah, homosexuality is forbidden. Thing. There's a clear distinction between doing that as an act that an individual does, or a society demanding that is the norm by instituting marriage contracts for that. That means the society is saying this is okay. Abortion. There would be, since 1973, there have been 66 million people that have been aborted. those babies have complaints, and they have complaints against the United States. There are systems that people put into play that are literally happening right now in America. I heard a very nice, it was a very nice analogy that I heard from Rabbi Mendel Kessin. So if a guy came to you and stuck his hand in your pocket and took out your wallet, he said, "What are you doing?" The guy says, "I want to give charity." Would that be okay? What do you think, David? You'd be okay with that? No, I'm okay with that. So what happens? You let all the migrants come in, kill your own people. Over 130,000 people have been killed from fentanyl, and you're letting it happen. And then you're going to take the money from the pockets of the people and put them in the hotel. Kamala, you want to give them money? Give them money from your pocket. Don't give them David's pocket. It's theft. It's theft. It's actual theft. This is not what a government has a right to do. A government could create a tax to go and to build roads for the people. But you want to go and uproot your people and then fund something else, and you have because you want to get more votes on people to vote for you. It's literally theft. The country is setting up theft. It's unbelievable. Every single thing. I know I can't say this because I don't know. It's hard. Nobody can point to. I can't point to one particular thing. I'm not on the level of prophecy to go and say this caused that. But I heard an incredible thing that from Mendel Kessin. He said that that Hurricane Katrina happened right the day before this holiday I never heard of called Southern Decadence Day. You ever heard of that? You ever hear that? I looked it up. It's a real thing called Southern Decadence Day. It's a day in New Orleans where the people do these licentious acts, and the cops don't stop anything. It's just part of the thing. And so your society is mandating and setting up systems that are completely antithetical to creating and maintaining a society. That's a line in the sand. So what do you as Americans have to do? And this, I feel so bad to say this because I always hear people saying, Americans are too smart to be fooled by this stuff. And I hate to tell you, I'm not so sure. I mean, now they got it advertised in Camelot. Kamala Harris 3 weeks ago was the most unpopular candidate in the world, and now she's the Messiah. It's unbelievable. Your media is brainwashing you, and you're like, yeah. And Trump's a meanie afterward. He said that she's not even black. I mean, come on. So I don't know. People, I hope America's smart enough, but I don't know. I hate to say it, but there's a certain stupidity in the air. And really the stupidity in the air in America, the reason why there's such stupidity is not just Facebook. Facebook is an outgrowth of it. But the stupidity is created by the wealth. That's what happens. Everyone knows the statement, necessity is the mother of invention. When people have to work for something, but now everyone expects, what do you mean? I'm here. I need to have at least 3 television sets. The guy down the block has it. Well, maybe go to work. Well, no. Send me a check. The expectation right now in America is essentially it's all comfort. What's the goal? I heard it from my rabbi years ago, and I said to you before, the Declaration of Independence is a very, very incredible document. It's a very, very good incredible document. But there's a big mistake. He should never have said life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is very important. It's a mitzvah to be happy. But your pursuit is for a meaningful life. People misunderstand it. Oh, if it's about pursuit of happiness, well, 3 TVs and 3 cars make me happy, so I'm entitled to that. That's my constitutional right. No, your constitutional right is to pursue an ability to live your life properly. No one could stop you. That's the beautiful freedom of America. And that was a great nation. That's something serious. That's something significant. You come along and you say, every man is endowed by his creator, and he gives you the ability to have life, liberty, and to live your life in a meaningful way. That was unheard of in the ancient world. And people have adopted it. It's great. Dan, you're in Canada, and until Trudeau, you almost believe that also. I don't know what that Trudeau guy's been doing. He brings Nazis into the parliament to get standing ovations. I mean, I don't know where this guy is. But what happens is that the world said, wait a minute, this is good. And that's why the founding fathers of America, according to their understanding, they try to read the Bible, try to read the Torah. They knew some stuff. That's what they're trying to base it on, right? What's the system? What is the check? What is the checks and balances? Why is there a judiciary and an executive branch and a legislative branch? Well, they looked. They saw there was the Kahuna, right? There was the Sanhedrin, and there was the king, the Melech. They saw there was a system, and everyone had a role in the system, and everyone was guaranteed to be able to express themselves properly. This was the greatness of America. And literally your country is being thrown into the toilet. I hate to use such strong language, but that's what's happening. That's what's happening. And now everyone's forgetting that they try to shoot Donald Trump. They try to arrest him. They try to because they don't like the way he talks. Because because Donald Trump, when they get him, he was speaking out. If you saw it, that Black Reporters Conference, so they try to trap him there. So when you come after him strong, he doesn't go. You guys saw that interview? They said to him, you all see that? Donald Trump went to the interview, and this lady tried to basically to ambush him. And said, why should we invite you here? You did this, you're that, you're a racist, you're this, you're that. And he said that was the rudest, I'd never heard such a thing. Why did you invite me here after you do it? So he hit back. This is what he does. But it's all right, which is okay. But they're all playing into the same hand. He's a meanie, and she's nice. She's got a spiritual leader, and she talks about this, talks about that. That's not what's going on. What's going on is the values that Kamala Harris was taking from Obama, which Biden, who was a political puppet, was barking out because that's what he did. This was what was happening. Those values are anti-American, and they are the antithesis of what the Torah tells us. And you all got to be smart right now. You all need to be smart, not let your friends get caught up in the illusion. It's an illusion. And to see that there's a bounce, and people are like, oh, wait a minute, maybe Kamala Harris is really, and Trump's a meanie. You're getting lost. You need, as the nations of the world, you need to have your voice. You need to save your country. You want America to be on the side of good. That's what you want. America's and Stephen, I know you're in England, right? I believe you're in England. So I don't mean it as America solely. I mean it as the values that have already emerged in the world when the world became less of a barbaric place. But now it's going backwards. But just with a lot of phony political, hypocrisy. Oh, yeah, I would never speak like Donald Trump. He speaks so evil. I'm all for love and peace. Yeah, 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 I know. And Jeffrey Epstein hung himself. I know. I know. It's like, you know, you got to understand, you know, Trump says what he thinks. And the other politicians, they don't say what they think. They talk word sounds. Look at their actions. You can tell your friends, maybe he doesn't speak so nice, he gets a little angry. But look what was his actions? What was Kamala Harris's actions for the past 15 years in service? Well, what did she do? She supported the bill to go and to not prosecute somebody that steals under $1,000. That is a clear antithesis of the 7 Noahide laws of morality. That's something you can't stand for. So what you got to do now is you got to say, I want to be on the team of good. Bilam wanted to go when he said the Jews were chosen. He said, I'm against them. And that's what Iran wants to do. Why is Iran doing this? You just know, as an aside, they're stuck in the Yishmael problem. What's the Yishmael problem? Yishmael was the older son of Abraham, and he maintained that he should have the rights of the firstborn. That's what he maintained. Now, Ishmael, therefore, had a hard time accepting Isaac, and he fought against it. In the end of his life, it says he repented. We know that from the verse because he says that he let Isaac go first. He put Yitzhak first. When it came to bury Abraham, it says Isaac and Yishmael. It means Yishmael was willing to accept his role and be part of the plan. And that's what the Arabs need to do. Don't fight it. There's nothing to fight. You can't fight God. You can't fight God. So what happens is that Bilam and the haters of the Jews say, we're going to fight this. We don't want this. But get off that high horse. Be part of the plan. God's bringing goodness and redemption to the world. You want to be on the side of right. Jewish people now in the land of Israel, we're doing our mission, we're praying, and we're going to see wonders and miracles that God's going to perform. And that's when we pray for the Kiddush Hashem, the sanctification of God's name, that they should see those miracles. That's what's important to us. That when God saves and the Scud missile knocked down, falls in the wrong place, or that people will understand that it's God doing it to save his people. That's what we got to do. And what the nations of the world have to say, I want to be part of that mission. And the way I'm part of that mission is I reject the ideas that are counter to that. There is no accident that the people who support these woke ideas that are completely counter Judaism and counter the existence of the society are also the ones who hate the Jewish people. There's no accident. It's literally one and the same. It's a war on God. And they're not going to win. Not going to win that war. So we're going to have, God willing, we'll see redemption. This Tisha B'Av, this 9th of Av, which is 9 days, God willing, we're going to see the third temple be built. Because the third temple is built in this month of Av. When the temple was destroyed, because the point was not destruction, the point was to prepare ourselves and rectify ourselves and to yearn for the connection to God, because we don't like being far away. And when we feel that, which we do feel, God's going to bring us back. And I encourage all the people of the world to be part of this, all together, as it says in the prayers for Yom Kippur. It says, V'yatu shchemecha lavdecha. All the people of the world will put their shoulders together to worship and to serve God. And put on the yoke and say, yes, we want to be part of this. I want that to be soon. Okay. All the best. Anyone have any questions?